Now for our In Focus segment, in which we're discussing about India's new mantra, trace and treat within 72 hours. Joining me are two very special guests, Dr. V.K. Paul and Dr. Randeep Guleria. Dr. Paul is a member of the National Institution for Transforming India, also known as Niti Aayog. Dr. Guleria is the director of the All India Institute of Medical Sciences in New Delhi. Gentlemen, welcome to Newsnight. Good to see you again. Let me come to you first, Dr. Guleria. Your thoughts on the news coming in this moment from Russia. Russia says it has a new COVID-19 vaccine ready for use by Russians and other people abroad. What are your thoughts on the Russian claim of having a valid COVID-19 vaccine ready for use?
So if the vaccine is ready, it's great news. But I think what we need to do is make sure about two things, and whether the data is there, that the vaccine is safe, because any vaccine which we start using in a large population, especially the elderly and the high risk group, has to have safety. Safety is paramount for any vaccine because it's going to be given to normal, healthy people. And the second issue is that how efficacious is the vaccine in terms of the immunogenicity or the immunity that it gives to an individual. How long does that immunity last? How protective is it? So I think if that data is there and it can be looked at by external experts that the vaccine is safe and it is efficacious, it is good, it gives good immunity, then this is good news. But I would want that that data is critically looked at before we are confident that this vaccine is actually there and can be used at a large scale.
But just a quick follow-up, Dr. Guleria. Now, we are told that whoever develops a vaccine, that vaccine will become a global goods. Now, in that scenario, are we looking at exploring tie-ups with Russia or any other country for that matter, so that more people around the world can benefit and can make use of the vaccine going forward as well?
Yes, I think the vaccine has to be available for all individuals throughout the world, especially those who are at high risk of dying and those who are at high risk of getting the disease, and that has to be prioritized. At the same time, I think it has to be looked at how can, if they find a vaccine which is safe and effective, how can we ramp up production so that very large number of doses are available for the population of the world. And I think that's where India has a big role to play, because 60% of all the world's vaccines are manufactured in India, and we have the capacity to really bring out a large number of vaccines. And therefore, I think if we have a good vaccine, India will play a major role in terms of producing that in bulk so that it can supply to the world.
Absolutely. And that gives me a perfect segue into my question to Dr. Paul. Dr. Paul, as Dr. Guleria pointed out, India manufactures almost 60% of the vaccines supplied globally. Now, India aims to be a pharmaceutical hub in the so-called post-COVID world order. Now, talking about India's track record on research and development of vaccines and COVID-19 vaccine in particular, give our viewers a sense of where the R&D stands today as we speak in terms of clinical trials, human trials and so on, and how quickly can Indians expect to have an indigenously developed vaccine for COVID-19?
Well, India already is the pharmacy of the world, the hub of pharmaceuticals, and also hub of vaccine production, which is a special form of pharmaceuticals, as you can say. So we already are a hub, and we have tremendous capacity to develop vaccines and manufacture vaccines, even if they are developed elsewhere. We have a science enterprise which is very deep, very innovative, very active, and we have several vaccine candidates in the early stage of development. But the three candidates are vaccines are in what you may like to say in advanced stage, relatively speaking. First and foremost, there is this Oxford vaccine, which is made elsewhere. But now one of our companies is going to perform phase 3 trials in human subjects, and already the process has been started, the permission has been granted, and the sites have been identified. So that will be a vaccine which India is, in a way, partly developing. The final phase of development and experimentation is being done in India, and then it will be manufactured by the Indian company, and they already have started to do that work in anticipation. Then we have two other vaccines which are totally indigenous vaccines. which have entered phase 1, phase 2 human trials, which is a little bit an earlier stage than the vaccine that I referred to earlier. And there is ICMR, Bharat Biotech vaccine, and then there is Cadila, Zydus Cadila vaccine, which is again indigenously developed vaccine. These two are somewhat different from each other, and they are in the stage of phase 1 and phase 2, which is essentially to measure safety and immunogenicity and reactogenicity of the vaccine. And if they succeed in this, which we do hope they would, then we move on to phase 3 in terms of effectiveness and so on. So India is very much in the race on two fronts. One, our own indigenous vaccine. Two specifically are in the stage that we can be excited about. Some others are in the pre-stage compared to this particular timeline. But it is a fact that we will be the manufacturing hub for vaccine, whether it is indigenous or it is produced elsewhere, because we have such a great capacity to manufacture millions of doses of vaccine. So whoever may invent another vaccine, they would look up to India to be able to manufacture this in millions of doses. So India is extremely fortunate, and we are grateful to our industrial enterprise and our scientific enterprise. The timeline cannot be stated in very precise terms. As I said, the stages vaccine development are evident, and yes, it will take, every stage takes some time. It is essential because you need to wait for antibodies to develop. We need to wait for effectiveness to be measured after a certain period of time. But yes, in a matter of a few months, the wait should be over. And let's hope that the vaccines would work. Please remember that undue hope and hype should also be avoided, because it is not necessarily certain that every vaccine that we start with would end up as a successful, effective, safe vaccine. Only time will tell. Therefore, we can hope and pray that we will have more than one vaccine developed in India and manufactured in India. But we also have to be mindful that this may not necessarily be true in the immediate, and therefore our disease containment and our addressing the other aspects of pandemic are very, very important. And we must make sure that our behaviors protect ourselves and they protect other people from this pandemic, because that social vaccine, so to say, is already available to us to slow down the spread of pandemic and to be protected. Therefore, there is no lowering of guard in that regard, even as we will have a very rapid, accelerated movement in the direction of vaccine development.
Fair point, Dr. Paul. Now, you had a committee, a 3-member committee, I'm told, in the Niti Aayog, and you will be meeting on Wednesday with all stakeholders, public and private, institutions and pharmaceutical companies as well. Could you give our viewers a preview of what they should or should not expect from tomorrow's meeting? And how significant, by the way, is Wednesday's meeting that the committee headed by you will be discussing about?
Well, the government of India has formed a national expert group to look at a very important aspect in relation to vaccine scale-up. See, one aspect is to produce a vaccine and test the vaccine and go through this journey of finding, one or more vaccines that are effective. I've referred to that already. Now, even as that process goes on energetically, we must be also planning as to how, once a vaccine is available, how it will be taken to scale. How we'll choose the vaccine, the criteria, how we will make sure that, if it is to be given all across the country, how will the supply, how do we preserve the vaccine if it is to be in a cold chain, for example? How do we identify people who should be the first ones to get the vaccine? Even if, as Dr. Guleria said, the first ones would perhaps be the healthcare providers and frontline workers, and then there will be those who have chronic morbidity. How do you go about doing it? And if the vaccine supplies are relatively limited, how do you prioritize? And also, how do you make sure that there is a follow-up, that the vaccines doesn't show up adverse effects, God forbid. They can still happen in a apparently safe vaccine. So we have to have a post-vaccine follow-up program. We also have to be making sure that, God forbid, if our own vaccines are not enough, for example, then how do we procure them from the market globally? So all these aspects in terms of holistic preparedness to scale up the vaccine, make the supplies happen in the country, and taken supplies to the remotest corner of India, and how to strategically position India in this aspect are the terms of reference of this committee. And tomorrow's meeting would be a very important part of our work. Already a lot of work has already taken place. We are also looking at using digital technology for this endeavor. So multiple work themes are already being worked on, and tomorrow's meeting will give further acceleration to this work. We will be ready in time with our preparation. Once the vaccine is available, we will be in a position to make the best use of it in a most efficient way.
Indeed. Now, let's talk a bit, if you will, Dr. Guleria, about the Prime Minister Modi's meeting with the chief ministers of 10 states this afternoon. Now, two things stood out for me, if you ask me. One, the Prime Minister's focus on a new mantra to trace and test within 72 hours of an Indian, anybody coming in contact with an infected coronavirus patient. That's number one. And number two, he says, is asking those 10 states in particular to complement India's three-pronged strategy of trace, test and treat with two more actions: containment and surveillance. Now, what should we make of this new strategy, if it's one? And are we prepared to meet any eventuality in these 10 states in particular, so that we actually end up flattening the curve in the next few weeks or months?
So I think what the Honorable Prime Minister has said is very, very important. If we really need to flatten the curve, then these are the states that need to work aggressively. Right. And the strategy that has been outlined is something which is what makes real sense and is based on science. And that is that firstly, you have to have a policy of testing, tracing and treating people who are positive and the close contacts within the first 72 hours, so that they don't spread the disease to other members and you don't develop a large cluster of cases. So it's very important that this is done as early as possible. The more you delay it, the more the disease will spread in the community, and you will have more and more cases in of COVID-19 because of the contacts who have come in with these individuals who have not been tested in time. So this whole policy has to be done aggressively. We must also remember that there are some people who are asymptomatic, and therefore if you have a cluster where you are having a large number of cases, you must have a solid containment policy so that even those who are asymptomatic and are there in the community don't spread the disease to others, and you can contain a cluster which is developing so that it doesn't become a huge number of cases in that area. If this is done along with the mantra of COVID appropriate behavior, that everyone aggressively follows wearing a mask, maintaining physical distancing, avoiding crowds or not forming crowds, and regular hand washing, then these three strategies will actually help in flattening the curve and decreasing the number of cases that are seeing a rise in various states. So I think this is what message has come out, and I think this is something which has to be followed in true letter and spirit, that if we do this, that we are able to track and trace everyone who has come in contact within 72 hours. We are able to see where a cluster is developing and develop a very strong containment zone in that area, so that cases are limited to that area and don't leak out to other areas where there are no cases or very few cases, and everyone follows the COVID appropriate behavior policy. I'm sure within the next few days or within a very short span of time, we will start seeing a flattening of the curve and a decrease in the number of cases.
Absolutely. Dr. Paul, one other issue that came out of this afternoon's meeting of the Prime Minister with the Chief Ministers is that his emphasis asking on the states to do more in terms of containment and surveillance. At the same time, he says the states could do more on their own to address these issues going forward as well. He, in a spirit of cooperation between the union government and the states in particular, and he seems to suggest that what the government has done in Delhi in particular could be a role model worthy of replication in other parts of the country. What Home Minister Amit Shah, his initiative in attacking the root of the problem in Delhi, and how Delhi could emerge as a potential role model for other cities or states going forward. So your thoughts on what Delhi has done differently than some other parts of the country?
Well, firstly, the Honorable Prime Minister emphasized the fact that all states have made huge efforts. State governments and the union government have worked hand in hand as one team India. And he congratulated and complimented the entire nation and all the states in this regard. And he said that when we're working as a team, we are in a reasonable situation today and we can defeat the virus. And he also emphasized the fact that every state has tried to innovate on the various approaches to contain the disease and in various ways. So he highlighted the fact that the best practices emanating from one state should be celebrated and should be owned up and adapted by other states so that they don't have to waste time in reinventing the wheel. And there are very fascinating ways, for example, in destigmatizing the COVID disease. So a particular state says COVID Vijeta. Whoever has survived COVID and has come back home is COVID Vijeta. There are COVID clubs that are being talked about and so on. Similarly, a particular state has used a mobile van to take the services close to people. Another state has used, many states in fact, have used different apps to contain the disease and to provide home care. And states after state introduced pulse oximeters. The point I'm making is there is a plethora of learning and products which can be shared. And the Prime Minister highlighted the need to own this up. And then, of course, as one example, clearly he emphasized that even in a situation that Delhi faced, when things looked very grim, the confidence of the people was shaken, the cases were rising rather exponentially, the death rate seemed to be unacceptable. In that scenario, once as a united team, the state government and the central government and the scientific might of the nation and the teams on the ground and people at large got together, a situation was created in which a concerted effort led to a rapid and a quick decline in the pandemic situation in the country. From 4,000 cases in a matter of days, the cases came very close to 1,000. Mortality rate declined, deaths on a given day declined. And then this opportunity led to a much better care, whether it is the home setting or in the COVID care center setting. What your question about what was done is essentially the same thing which Dr. Guleria has highlighted. It was multi-pronged attack, and above all was the emphasis on contact tracing, on containment, on making sure that the surveillance is very intense. The containment zones were redesigned. They were relatively less because a lot of cases were coming from outside the containment zone. So once you increase the number of containment zones, you knew that the whole pandemic would be localized. So the actions were the same which the scientific principles have dictated. The testing was done of people who were coming in contact with large number of people, such as the rickshawala. The zero surveillance was done. Ambulance services were beefed up. Increase in the beds was done. Protocols were followed, and also emphasis on the COVID appropriate behavior.
Absolutely.
And today, drawing from that lesson, the Honorable Prime Minister highlighted that a concerted scientific approach, at the heart of which is containment, contact tracing, surveillance, can turn the corner, and he appealed to all of us that put faith in this and make it happen.
Indeed. So containment and surveillance are the two new action agendas for all the states and union territories across the country to break the chain and beat the coronavirus. All right, on that note, Dr. Paul and Dr. Guleria, thank you so much for sparing time to be on Newsnight and inform our viewers about the latest situation in regards to COVID-19 in the country. Thank you for your time. Appreciate it.